Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the February 13th, 2013 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. The first item on the agenda for this evening is a notice of intent continued from the last meeting, January 23rd. Dennis Scannell, 50 Tanner Street, concerning DEP file number 2060702. The project location is 41 Tanner Street, and it's construction of an LED billboard within the wetland buffer along the River Meadow Brook riverfront area, bordering land subject to flooding and bordering vegetated wetlands. I will be stepping down as chair, and as a member for this meeting, I have yet to review the hearing materials from the prior meeting. I've talked to the applicant's representative. We don't have a quorum for this hearing, but I'll be part of this hearing, listening to it. So I don't have to review also this one too. I just can't participate in it. And I'll turn the chair over to Vice Chair Varnum at this point in time. That's if there's no objections. Okay. All right. So,
no objections.
All right.
Thank you. I believe this was continued from our last meeting. The file number is 206-702. The project location is 41 Tanner Street. Applicant Dennis Scannell. Could you introduce yourself, please? I'm not sure your microphone's on.
Unfortunately, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but Stephen Erickson was, and he had filled me in. The commission had sent out a number of items that wanted for us to address, and we submitted a number of things. We addressed each item. Dana Perkins' letter dated February 5th. One of the issues was they wanted more clarification on the stormwater management redevelopment checklist and report. That has been submitted. The plans have been revised to show a number of tree species. The commission had expressed not only did you want planting of shrub species, you also wanted planting of tree species. And I also got a revised planting plan from Swathi today, just revising the plants that we would like to put in. We had originally had them 10 feet spaced apart, and she's requesting that we put them 20 feet apart. And that's not a problem. We can revise the plan to show that. That's not an issue. There were also maybe 2 or 3 additional trees shown. Again, that is not a problem. And the commission had requested a larger tree to be planted. And we can also accommodate that request. That is not a problem.
Now, I notice on this new plan that you've just passed out to us that the notation in the top right of the planting area there has a minimum caliper of 1.5 inches. On this other planting plan that Swathi has passed out to us, that notation is also on there, but on the bottom we have a minimum caliper of 2.5 to 3 inches, and as you say, 20 feet apart instead of 10.
That's not a problem.
But that should be corrected on the plan, just for accuracy.
Okay.
I had a thought about the planting plan. It seems that the trees are sort of all in a line, and I'm wondering if the roots would do a better job of holding the soil in that area if the trees were staggered in sort of a zigzag fashion rather than, and that would also give more space between the trees, perhaps closer to the edge of the disturbed area. I'll find out in a minute what the others on the board feel about that, but it seems that the trees are very close to the shrubs, and I'm wondering how the shrubs are going to survive once the trees grow, if in the shade of those trees. I'm not quite sure why they're in a straight line, because the ones that were taken down were sort of spaced in an odd fashion.
I think we had proposed them in a straight line just to show as a visual barrier that do not encroach any further, there shouldn't be any more work. So that was the idea about planting the shrubs in a straight line. If you rather have it in a random pattern, that's not a problem. We can provide a random pattern, just like the revised planting plan shows. We can do that as well, so.
I can understand the shrubs perhaps being in a straight line, but the trees perhaps spaced out more randomly.
With the trees, I thought was, we didn't want to encroach too much further down the bank or into the riverfront area. So that was the thought of why we put the trees where they are. But again, if the commission would prefer a planting plan similar to what Swathi gave me, that's not a problem. We can revise the plan and show that.
Well, the trees that were removed were down in that area.
Okay.
Let me just find out what the rest of the commission feels on that. Do you have a, Ms. Lynch, or?
No, I just agree with what Commissioner Varnum has said. If we can just make the trees a little more staggered, I think that would be more beneficial
Okay.
for the growth of them.
Ms. Biedron? Okay. Okay, so perhaps that could be corrected on the plan as well as the caliper size. Is there anything else on this plan that you'd like to point out?
Yes, I know from speaking to Steve Erickson, the commission had expressed concern about the amount of impervious area that's existing on the site. So what we did was, where the proposed billboard is going, we're gonna pour a concrete footing, and we're gonna put a foot deep of loam area and then grass over that area on top as well, just to provide more pervious area for the lot.
Mm-hmm. Is this dewatering area, is that new on this plan from the last one?
Yes, it is. I believe one of the commission members had expressed concerns about the dewatering, so we had added this area to be provided if we do need some dewatering while the footing is being excavated out.
There's no plans to pave any of the area that's not paved now?
No, we are not proposing that. And in addition to that, we've also provided a construction entrance, a crushed scrabble. I believe that was another commissioner's request. That has been added to the plan as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also a snow storage area. That's along the southerly property line. That's placed outside of the 100-foot buffer zone area.
What's the schedule for construction?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure what the schedule is. I think once we get the permit, he's going to move forward in terms of scheduling the contractors to come out and to begin work.
I think you did have there is a rather detailed construction sequence in the filing.
Yes, that has been provided, but in terms of a time or a month, I don't know.
So, it looks like the plantings will be well into the spring,
Right.
which is good. Is this property going to stay under the same ownership, do you know?
As far as I know, yes, it will.
Because we would need the plantings to be maintained for, 2 or 3 or more years in order to make sure they're established.
That's fine. You could put that as a condition in the order, and that's not a problem.
I have a question.
Are there any questions from the commission?
Yeah, you mentioned that you were gonna plant grass over the footing? Is there-
Correct. So the footing would be put into the ground. There's actually a pretty good detail right above the dewatering sump shown on the plan. So the footing would put in the ground and then would put a foot of loam over the footing. And then we would just plant grass area.
And that's new?
That's new from the last meeting,
Last one.
yes.
Okay.
Checking over the replies that you've made to the questions of the commission and the engineer. I think the most important thing is that the sediment control system remain intact during the construction.
That is not a problem. We do have 2 rows of erosion controls shown on the plan, so.
And we did want it changed from hay bales to straw wattle, which I see on this new plan.
Correct.
Let me just ask, is there anyone here that would like to speak concerning this project? Anyone like to speak concerning this project, 41 Tanner Street, construction of a LED billboard? Now, I'm not sure of the procedure here. If there's no more questions, I would normally close the public hearing, but I'm not sure. Can we do that tonight? No. Okay.
One request, that is to, that,
That and the cutting on this side of River Meadow Brook was a concern to me because we've lost, the size of the trees is noted on the plan here. We've lost 14-inch, 20-inch, 8-inch trees, and I'm going to recommend putting in the order of conditions that a 3-inch caliper be the minimum that replaces those, because those were considerable size, and we're not asking for replacement of as many trees as were cut from the looks of this. I haven't specifically counted them up, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And I spoke to my client regarding the larger caliber trees that the commission was requesting, and that's not a problem.
We've had other landowners from this section of River Meadowbrook in here saying that invasives are a tremendous problem and smaller sized trees would just be overcome before they could get established, if that's the case. I don't have any more questions. We will continue this to our next hearing date at your request,
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And just to clarify, so the only thing left that I need to submit to the commission is to revise the plan showing the plantings in a staggered configuration. And that would be it at this point,
The caliper size,
in the caliper size.
the placement, and that's all I have on my list.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to continue?
I'll motion to continue this till our next meeting.
Seconded by Ms. Lynch, and that's it for,
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Enforcement order also continued from the prior hearing, Paul Mercia, concerning DEP file number 2060701. The violation location is 51 and 57 Shirley Avenue, and it's construction of a single-family home in a 100-year floodplain and bordering land subject to flooding. Are you here for that one also?
I am.
Okay, if you could again identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, my name's Maureen Hanley from Norse Environmental Services, here on behalf of my client. Just to give the commission a bit of an update, we had the DEP site walk yesterday with Nancy White for the appeal for the notice of intent that we filed. Swathi was out there, as well as Mr. Mercier, and we reviewed the site with her, and the topic of enforcement did come up during the site visit, and I had suggested that perhaps as part of the superseding order, if it is to be approved by the state, that we could incorporate the planting plan that was forwarded to me, which is 8 plants, or 8 trees, 3-inch calibers. Of course, I don't want to step on the commission's toes or anything of that nature. If you rather us come back to you and address it separately, that's okay too. It was just the thought at the site walk, and would like to get your input.
I personally don't have an issue with doing that, because I don't like bifurcated processes whereby we're doing something and the DEP's doing something. But as a procedural matter, though, you're before the DEP on a superseding order on the new
Correct.
on the new one, but you're going to have to come back before us under the Lowell Wetlands bylaw too. So we're going to be seeing that again anyway.
Okay.
Okay, because we have different notification and requirements than the state does, and you would still need an order under the Lowell Wetlands ordinance anyway.
Okay.
Notwithstanding all of that, we're here for the enforcement order. Now, we've received, and I guess we have to figure out our dates and tolling of penalties and everything like that, and that's what I'd like to do today, and and discuss it between the commission members that are here. But what was the receipt date of the planting plan? I know it was some time ago now.
Yes, that was received as part of the notice of intent filing, and that would be December 14th, if I'm not wrong.
Okay,
But
yeah,
I
I
can
mean, we'd have
confirm.
to check the dates,
Yes.
and again, You know, and again, the penalties and the fines, the per diems were levied because of for the most part, because of the non-communication from your client and because of the ongoing and continuing and repeated violations. So, what I would like to do is get a timeline as to the date that we receive the planting plan. Again, whether it's satisfactory to the commission or not, I mean, that's something the commission can discuss. And what you're proposing, at least to me, makes sense. As long as it's, and I'll open it up, for the commission, as long as it's in line with what the commission is looking for. I'm noticing that, we've eliminated the white pines and eliminated the evergreens and have pretty much stuck with deciduous trees, which is what we had asked for. I know the comments at prior hearings were that it was wholly inadequate, but and again, I'm not going to speak for the commission, I'm just going to speak for myself. I'm of the opinion I would rather be liberal and give the benefit of the doubt to Mr. Mercia that he complied with our request for a planting plan, whether or not it was adequate or not. At that time, there was a response to it, and that's really what we wanted. We wanted to open the dialogue.
Okay.
But we couldn't do that until he was responsive, and so it's opened the dialogue. We can leave it to Swathi and our administrator to figure out what the actual date is and the fines. Then what I would suggest is whatever that figure ends up to be, at this time, let's just leave it at that. What I'm going to do, I've said my piece on this, and what I would like to do is open up to the commission for their comments and what they're doing, and let's see what we can do with this enforcement. I'd like to not continue this again. I'd like to take some action, either end it, and put some finality to it. This has been ongoing now for much too long. So, Commissioner Varnum?
We discussed this, it was on the agenda at the last meeting, even though there was no one here representing the applicant at that time. Mr. Erickson was at the meeting and did hear our comments. And if I recall, December 14th was the date that a plan was submitted that had some trees on it as a planting plan. And we declared that sometime between December 14th and the last meeting, we had declared that an inadequate plan due to the fact that there was also a white pine on there. And we requested another revision. And I believe what we said was that if the planting plan wasn't submitted by this particular meeting, that the fines would begin again. So that's my memory of it. This is a planting plan that has been suggested by the DPD, if I understand it. It wasn't actually submitted by Mr. Mercier's representative. I notice on here that it still says the words white pine, which should be eliminated. My concern here is the emergency order was to fix the site, to restore the site. And I don't see any way that the enforcement order could be lifted tonight since the site sits there unrestored as we speak. There's no possibility of planting these trees until spring. Therefore, I would say we could approve some sort of planting plan, but I would think that the enforcement order would still remain in effect until the remediation has taken place. And I'd like to point out that I consider these 8 trees to be a first planting, that we had discussed at one of the meetings that there were approximately 20 trees that were removed. And since Mr. Mercier is still proposing to build a house there, we were of the opinion that the trees in the perimeter of the lot could be planted. Whether or not the house was approved, they could be planted almost immediately as soon as the ground is unfrozen. And should a house not be approved on this lot, the remaining 12 trees could be planted in the center of the lot as they were before Mr. Mercier removed them. As far as considering this a final planting plan, that won't be something that's known until we find out the result of Mr. Mercier's appeal to the DEP for the building of a single-family home there. So it's my opinion that this enforcement order is not ready to be lifted, that perhaps we could approve the species and the size of this first planting, but that the site is going to need more plantings and more remediation, including smoothing and removal of stumps. I would be very cautious about lifting an enforcement order until that work at least is completed. That's
Actually, those are excellent points. I guess I should clarify what I said. You actually made some good points, Commissioner Barnum. I wasn't in favor of lifting the enforcement order. That would still continue. It was just that I didn't want to having this coming back week after week after week. You just table it until we had some final action from the DEP, and it came back before us as part of the Lowell the wetlands thing, to roll it into that. That's what I was looking more for. But you make some excellent points about the restoration of the site as it stands now, and stabilizing the site, because it still hasn't been done yet. So, Commissioner Lynch.
No, I'll just agree with what the chairman and Commissioner Barnum said. I don't think that this should be lifted by any means, but just approving some sort of initial planting plan, and then again seeing where the notice for a house goes, and deciding if they need more trees or not, if the house is going to be there. But I definitely think something needs to be done in the meantime.
Commissioner Bedrin.
We said that the fines are gonna start tonight if a sufficient plan wasn't submitted, and it hasn't been. So how does that play out?
What is, this was generated, Swathi, by your office, and with discussion with Norse Environmental and with Mr. Mercier?
Definitely with Norse Environmental, and we have a telephone conversation and confirmation from Maureen that they are supportive of adopting this planting plan as recommended. So for all purposes, I don't think DPD is looking at restarting the fines. If they can provide a plan adopting this recommendation, we would consider it as the final plan.
So maybe do we say this is how it's gonna be, and we want plants in by this date, or else fines are gonna start again? You know,
Initially, we had requested a restoration plan.
yeah,
And
we still
and-
technically haven't gotten
right,
it, we've
and it-
given them
and-
one.
And that was part of the original enforcement order. The fines started because of the lack of communication. That's sort of a last straw type of action that the commission took, as at least my recollection is, that's why we took that action. I can't say that I'm 100% satisfied, and I'm getting the impression that it's, the rest of the commission feels the same way, that they're 100% satisfied with what we're looking at today. But we have a representative here, we've got dialogue going on, there's back and forth, there's, you know, that they're working the problem. And
Yeah.
at least in my mind, that's what I want. I mean, we're never, any project, we're never 100% satisfied with what's going on. I mean, there's always some give and take and negotiation and whatnot, but it was the dialogue that prompted, or the lack of communication that prompted the fines. So the fact that we have something here who actually generated it, to me, is, you know, I suppose, you know, did Mr. Mercier's representatives generate it? Did Mr. Mercier represent, you know, did we generate it? There's something here. I don't, to me, it doesn't matter who did it.
It's done.
It's here, and Ms. Hanlon is indicating that they're at least on board with what's been.
Yeah, but just moving forward, I want
What's
to
been-
ensure that these get planted by this spring, because the site looks absolutely horrible and it's all
Yeah.
flooded. So,
Right.
you know, I feel like we need to say maybe this plan needs to be completed by a date.
If I may make a suggestion, my understanding from the board is this is a preliminary plan, and what I can do is, if you're fine with these tree species, I can revise the plan and show this on as a preliminary plan. We really can't plant any trees until about April 15th at the earliest, because that's the start of the growing season. So I don't know, and we also need to wait for DEP to come back. Typically, they take a month to 6 weeks to come back from an appeal. So I don't know if we could continue this till maybe the end of March or early April. We'll know what DEP's decision is, and then we'll have a better idea if these plants are sufficient. If they're not, what in addition do you want on the plan, or what have you? And then we can move forward in terms of planting the trees, and if we have the permit for the house, start the construction of the house. I mean, ideally, if we get the permit for the house, I would be hesitant to plant the trees first, because I wouldn't want them to get damaged during the construction of the house. I mean, we're certainly going to plant the trees, but, you know, in terms of timing, I suppose we could work that out at a later date, but just an idea to maybe table it till the end of March or early April.
I'm going to make two suggestions, all right, and I have one question. The site as it exists now is in deplorable shape, and there's serious concerns, and I don't want to speak for the neighbors, but, you know, there was a letter that was recently submitted to the commission that had serious concerns about runoff as it exists from the site now, and the fact that there's standing water. It's probably snow covered all now, but
Right.
but you know, in a couple of weeks, that's going to be a pond over there, and it's just going to get worse. What can be done now, or as soon after snow melt as possible, to stabilize that site, as far as maybe, you know, covering it with some sort of geotech type material, or will that just exacerbate the situation that exists? I mean, something needs to be done. What I would suggest at a very minimum is that the perimeter be have a siltation barrier established with, you know, with a fabric.
Silt fence or something
Yeah,
of that
with
nature.
a fabric and with straw wattle to contain on site what's on site.
Okay.
The second comment that I had, and this is somewhat sad, is, you know, you can plant trees. I mean, we were planting trees right up until November, mid to late November, of quite sizable caliper. And from
Right.
from what I understand, that's an ideal time to plant large trees, which is what we were requesting here. And it's somewhat sad that there was, you know, a lot of pushback and no communication regarding that from Mr. Mercier. The third thing that I am going to suggest And, perhaps this is something that could be discussed amongst the commission, but in lieu of a fine, and I don't know what the tally is now, in lieu of the fine that exists now, is that Mr. Mercier post a performance bond in a similar amount, and he do that. And I'm pretty sure we now have a procedure to accept performance bonds for work, and that he do that within the next week or two, in a manner, in an amount that's similar to what is owed in current penalties, to ensure that the site will be stabilized and these trees will be planted. And that way he gets the performance bond back once he's completed the work, and he has the potential for avoiding having to pay the penalties. After all, that's what we want. We want the site stabilized. We want the site re-treed. That's what we want. We're not here to cause Mr. Mercier financial harm. We wanted him to talk to us. We wanted him to discuss this issue, and to correct a wrong. And he avoided us, and this is where we're at. Now, I'm just mentioning this for the first time tonight, but to me, my goal is to see this site stabilized, to see this site, somewhat restored and beautified, and in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act and the City of Lowell bylaw. As it stands now, it's not. And there is an enforcement order, and there's some sizable outstanding penalties that had run. I'm somewhat familiar with what it costs to plant a 2 to 3 inch caliper tree. And especially on a site that's easy to work on, it's a little bit less than normal. I'll open that up. I'll open that up to the commission, to hear their comments, or perhaps we can come back and, so they can think about it, because I'm just mentioning it for the first time. And it's, again, something you may want to discuss with your client too, but, let me open that up to the commission first because unless the commission wants to go along with that, then, it's not going to happen. But at least, if it's something that it's amenable to the commission, then perhaps you can go back to your client and discuss that, and come back with a proposal and how to set that how to get that established and set it in place. But at least to me, that sounds like a win-win, because he's not paying for trees, then also having to pay a fine to the city, because the city levies that through their tax department, and it goes on the land. I mean, it's got to be paid. It accrues interest if it's not paid, and penalties if it's not paid, on top of what's already owed. At least, with the performance bond, we know the work's eventually going to get done in short order. We can put a window on it. We can put a sunset on it. And Mr. Mercier, just has the outlay for the work that needs to be done, and stands a chance to get his money back once it's done. Mm-hmm. To me, it sounds like a win-win type situation. But let me open it up to the commission for comments. And this would just be an open comment. And again, if you need more time to think about something like that, that's fine too. This isn't the last we're going to hear about it, but and I certainly don't anticipate this getting in place. And I said like a week or two. I didn't mean, I meant a week or two once it's agreed to. I didn't mean next week or the week following.
I understand.
All right. Commissioner Barnum.
I think the purpose all along was to get the site restored. I'm not too familiar with how bonds would work, whether there's money left over that could go into the conservation if the site isn't up, and who would do the work if the applicant doesn't complete it. I'm not sure about all those details. But I certainly want to see the work done. And I think I would be very exacting, especially if there were a bond, very exacting about what was done, and not just be a little bit careless about the details. For instance, you just mentioned 2-inch caliper. We've got 3-inch here, and I'd certainly like to see at least 3 or perhaps 4. So if somebody plants an 1.5-inch tree out there, I'm not going to say, oh, well, that's all right, it's still a tree. I think there are certain standards that we want to see, not just a tree in the ground. And if a bond will encourage the applicant to restore the site in the manner that we're seeking, then perhaps that's a good thing.
Commissioner Lynch?
I think a performance bond sounds like it would be beneficial to the applicant. I also think it would ensure that site work is actually completed. In that way, both the residents will be happy with the work, and there'll be no further damage to the site. So I, for one, would be in favor. Again, I'm not quite sure the details if it doesn't happen, who then takes it over and cleans it up and things like that. But it sounds like it would be beneficial for the applicant to do that.
Commissioner Bedrin?
I'm not in favor of a performance bond. I think that's actually letting him off the hook, kind of. We went many meetings before I thought we should have issued fines. So by the time we issued a fine, I thought it was pretty sufficient. So I think we should just focus on finalizing a plan and getting those plants planted, because like you said, this is preliminary. I think it needs to be final, whether or not the house gets built or not, because that site is in really rough shape, and I'm worried about the neighbors flooding.
In terms of that, my only idea about that is we could put erosion controls around the perimeter of the property.
What about groundwater problems? Like, I don't know if you've driven by there, it's really bad.
I know it's wet, and if we have flooding, that's gonna be a problem too. So, unfortunately, it's just tough to stabilize any site right now during the winter time. We have the snow, and if it stays cold, it'll stay stabilized. This week's been very warm, and there's been a lot of melting, so I don't know how the rest of this winter's gonna go. But my only thoughts is really the erosion controls. I mean, we'd have to remove them if there was any flooding, because it wouldn't flood through that lot. It would push the floodwaters on the other lots.
It just seems like this is a preliminary plan that might happen. You'd rather build the house first and all that, and I understand that, but I don't think that that's what we're looking for. I think we're looking for the site to be replanted, whether or not a house gets built or not. And as a builder, I wouldn't want to plant these trees. They're going to get in my way. So
Actually, there's a lot of incentive to plant the trees, because it'll just add more value to the lot.
no, but you mentioned you want to plant them after the house.
Right, because if you're gonna have machines on the lot, I mean, this lot's a small lot, so you're gonna have excavators on the lot, the trees could be damaged. And then we'd be back at square one again, back in front of the commission. Okay, so 7 out of the 14 trees died, now we're back here again. So I guess I don't wanna repeat that step if possible.
And I understand that, and I hope the timing works all right, but what I'm concerned about is if there isn't a permit for the house. I feel like this lot's just gonna get left behind because he doesn't care.
What if we were to continue the meeting for 6 weeks? And the only reason why I'm suggesting this is because DEP will come back with a decision then. So we'll have a decision whether DEP says yes to the house or no to the house. And then we'll know exactly where the lot stands. I mean, it's just an idea. If the commission isn't comfortable with that, that's fine. But we'll have a better idea of which direction to move forward and resolve this issue.
Swati, what sort of timeline, if any, do we have regarding the superseding proceeding with the DEP?
I'm sorry, can you clear that question? Like, when will they have to come to?
What has the DEP indicated any timeline as to when the
No,
public hearing process will be complete?
they usually say 6 to 8 weeks. And we have already gone beyond 2 weeks right now since you appealed to them.
Well, we had the site visit yesterday, so they typically take a month to 6 weeks from the site visit because they gather the information at the site visit and everything of that sort, so. I mean, I'm more than happy to put up erosion controls to stabilize the site. I'm more than happy to revise the plan in front of you so that we take the white pine off the plan and you can actually see this on an engineered plan. And I'm more than happy to work with Swathi in the meantime to get some ideas of what else we can do to resolve the enforcement issues on the lot.
Well, this isn't a big house. It seems to me that you would perhaps be able to get some replantings, at least in an L shape, along one side and along the back. And that those would be relatively safe, and that they could be done right after the foundation placement.
I agree.
It seems to me that would be, because the only thing you have coming on at that point in time are just material trucks just dumping their loads, and they usually just do that right in the front. And then the construction crews just pick off out of the out of the piles that get delivered and then the house gets
Right, once the
constructed. I mean,
grading's
this day and
done.
age, they can put up a wood frame house in 2 or 3 days. So it's not a involved process. I mean, this house, what's the dimensions on this house? It looks to be like 20 by 40, if that, so.
Could we have them come back once we know if DEP does permit the house? I think that's probably the best.
Yeah, I
thing
mean,
to
we
do.
can,
I
yeah,
can come back next month. I mean, it doesn't matter to me when I come back to the commission. I just don't want to be spinning any wheels until we have some information.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we can do that. We can set this and, to come back. I'd like to do it in a sensible manner so that we have at least a reasonable expectation that the DEP will have finished, and with the understanding you're going to have to come back before us with regard to that anyway.
Right.
And this, but it seems to me, it seems to me that the part that abuts Shirley Ave, needs to be stabilized before you start, having mud rivers running down Shirley Ave in March, in late February, once all this starts to thaw out. I mean, I don't have a lot of sympathy, about the groundwater issue. It's Mr. Mercia caused the problem,
I understand your frustration.
And the delays have brought us to mid-February, and this is something that was, back in October and September.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not overly sympathetic about whether he's going to have to go through some extraordinary measures to stabilize the site. He brought it upon himself. What I am sympathetic, though, is burning money for the sake of being punitive. And that's, I'd rather see it get used for something constructive and something positive than just a fine and a penalty. If it can be turned into something that moves the issue forward. We're not dealing with Donald Trump here. It's, people don't have unlimited sources of funds.
Right.
There's economic realities behind all of this too, and I'd like to see this get, start to move forward. I'd like to see some progress, and I'd like to see this site stabilized and restored as we originally ordered, way back. So, yes, Swathi.
Just wanted to mention that we haven't yet received any architectural plans or anything, so unless, basically I believe Mr. Mercier might be waiting for the DEP decision. So the building permit could be another few weeks. So I'm assuming you get the foundation permit only after they do the complete architectural review. So we are not exactly looking at April or May when construction can actually happen. So that might be waiting a little too long to stabilize the site. And part of the reason, though we are very much aware about 20 trees having been removed there, we knew the intent of the landowner was to propose constructions there. So we strategically located all the trees we wanted there long term. And the 3-inch caliper was something where we looked at as something that can withstand the proposed size of the house construction on that site. So it's a matter of taking maybe a few extra precautions to protect those trees, informing the contractor it could be part of their site work management plan to protect them. So I would not delay the trees going in beyond spring. And since we don't have the rest of the plan for the construction at that time in place, you might want to, definitely I understand coming back at the DEP time, but I'm a little hesitant to think about waiting to plant after the construction at the site.
Yeah, and I want to add one thing, and it kind of lost my head a little bit while I was discussing this and said, the foundation, we have to understand here that this site is wholly contained within the floodplain, and a dugout foundation is not possible on this site. So
If I may just address Swathi's
Yeah.
comments. Ideally, we can't plant trees now. We can put a tree in the ground right now, but it's not going to live. It's just not going to live. So I really don't want to do that and waste the client's money and kill these trees. The second thing is we have grading proposed. If this house was to get approved, and I don't know if it will, but we have grading proposed around the house. So ideally, we want to get that grading done first, plant the trees, and then continue with the lawn area and completely stabilizing the lot. If we plant the trees without doing the grading, we have the potential of damaging the roots and killing the trees.
Yeah, the grading's a whole nother issue, because, and again, it's gonna be something that you'll be dealing with the DEP with as far as your cuts and fills and compensation go. I don't know how you're gonna do that and provide compensation, because it looks like there's some, actually, it looks like there's some significant, the grading looks like it's more cutting than
Right,
filling.
we're taking the material out.
But again,
And right now, as you mentioned, the site is a mess, and there are stumps that need to be yanked out of there, and it needs to be cleaned up. So again, I don't want to plant the trees now, because we do need to do some site work to clean it up first.
well, the stumps are probably the only thing holding the site together right now, so,
It's
I
definitely
hate to say it, but, a stump can be an amazing, piece of underground architecture as far as stabilizing an otherwise nasty, piece of soil. I don't know, I don't know what type of process Mr. Mercier is going to use eventually to remove the stumps. There's several different ways to go, but from the history and from what he used to cut the trees down, which was shockingly overkill, I'm sure he'll, what do I know? I don't know anything as far as what he's going to do, but, we do know the process that he used to cut down the trees, and, he literally defoliated that site in the scope of about an hour and a half.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
In view of the discussion and thinking about the past history here, I'm wondering whether or not we lift or keep fines, if it wouldn't be a good idea to have some kind of a performance bond on this site. The more we delay, the more opportunities for communication that will be needed, and we haven't had too good an experience in the past with this particular applicant as far as communication goes. I'm thinking from what Ms. Bedron said, a comment, that if the house is not approved, this client really has no need to be concerned about this lot. You know, it probably would be something you could walk away from because he's a builder and that's his business, and he's not a person who's collects vacant lots, I don't think. And I'm thinking a performance bond at that point might be the only thing that would get this work completed. If the house is not approved and Mr. Mercier has no opportunity to recoup his money that he's already spent on this particular project.
All right, any, for what, I suppose what I'd like to propose then is we can bring this back in 6 weeks' time, pending the DEP action or not, but what I would like to suggest, and that's fine, what I would like to suggest, though, is that either in 2 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time, that Mr. Mercier or his representatives come back before us, and this is, I'm just talking about the enforcement order,
Right.
with a proposal to post a performance bond, to stabilize the site and to restore this site regardless of the DEP's action. It would be with the understanding that if the DEP were to approve action or were to improve construction on the site, and that subsequent to that, the Lowell Conservation Commission were to approve under the wetlands bylaw construction on the site in accordance with the DEP's superseding order, that the performance bond could be used at that point, once the work was completed, to the satisfaction of the commission and the DEP, then Mr. Mercier could apply for the return of his performance bond. But barring that, and we could put a sunset, we could put a 1-year term on this, or whatever is agreeable to the commission and Mr. Mercier, that if it's not completed within a certain time frame, that the performance bond will be used to restore the site. But in the meantime, as part of the enforcement order, that Mr. Mercier come back before us, and I would say, either 2 or 4 weeks' time. I don't know what your experience is with posting performance bonds and how quickly you can discuss this with your client. But I would like to keep the time frame very short, and to come back with a proposal.
Okay.
All right, you can be in contact with Swathi regarding what the current fines are, and you can be in contact with the nurseries, and as to what your outlay for the trees and other restorations will cost, and it'd be a realistic proposal, and that a like-kind performance bond for the work, understanding that Mr. Mercier will be performing some of the work, but the performance bond should be sensitive and should take into account that in the event that he doesn't do the work, he's not doing it. So it shouldn't be, the cost of the trees only and the cost of the materials only, okay? It should be something that's reasonable and takes into account what the cost of
The labor.
right, labor
understand.
and
Right.
performing the work and machinery that will be required to be used to complete the process. And, you know, and again, that can be done, it can be done, I don't know what the final tally of the fines was, but, you know, I know it's multiple thousands of dollars. So,
If we could continue for a month, I would appreciate that, then I can get different estimates from some nurseries, you know, maybe 2 or 3, just to get an idea of for the performance bond.
our next February meeting is, no, it's March? Yeah, this is our,
We have next meeting on 27th of February, and then the second Wednesday of March.
second Wednesday of March. I mean, I'll entertain a motion in that regard. And, you know, at least we'll get something on the table and we can discuss whether we're going to be coming back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks on that, or whether we, you know, it's something that we even want to entertain at all, but.
I think Mr. Mercier probably has contacts and is well aware of costs of having people do landscaping work, since he's had that done in many cases on other projects. I would think that 2 weeks would be enough. Make a couple calls to some nurseries. That's not going to take a month. There's only 8 trees here at the moment, but this should also include grading, stabilization as far as seeding, and any shrubs that might go around the house, and understanding that there are 10 or more trees going to be added to this, should the house not be approved, to restore what was there before. So I would think that February 27th, I'll make that motion to extend an invitation for Mr. Mercier to come back on the 27th, or his representative, with a proposal for an amount that would be required to do this particular work that we've been discussing as far as a performance bond.
Do I just open it for discussion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, now discussion. I agree, I'd like to keep it on a short leash, and that way, you know, I understand what I'm looking at is, you know, there's a submittal deadline, which is today, actually, I guess, but notwithstanding all of that, it can be shortened. But, I mean, I'd like something in place enough time such that we as a commission get it. We get our package usually a week before, so, you know, that kind of gives you a week from today to put something together. And I know that's not realistic, but I would
I mean, I'll do the best that I can. I'll get you the information as soon as I can. It may not be a week from today. It might be 2 days before the meeting, and
No, that's fine.
if you're okay with that,
That's fine.
I'm okay with that.
But
I'll
I
do
would
the best that
rather
I can.
keep it on a short leash
I understand.
to keep the dialogue open, and that way, if at least we get something in 2 weeks, we can discuss it to finalize it in 4 weeks. Whereas if we push it off to 4 weeks, then, you know, who knows where we're at. I mean, we're coming back with nothing in place, and we're still, you know, we're looking at the DEP, and perhaps that gets continued a little bit too, and, you know, and this, so I'd rather keep that aspect of it on a short leash, and that way we can, you know, you know, we can get something in place, and quite frankly, I think 2 weeks is realistic. Yeah, I mean, there are submittal deadlines, but this is an open and ongoing process. This isn't a new enforcement order. It's been ongoing for quite some time now. And as I said, at least to me, this is in Mr. Mercier's interest. I mean, I think we're somewhat throwing a bone here. And I would think that it would be something that he would be
Okay.
more than happy to run with.
I request the board 2 weeks, and I'll see what I can come up with.
All right, any further discussion? I know Commissioner Biedron's stance on this already. I mean, she can reiterate that if she'd like, but.
No, I just don't want to, you know, we don't issue fines a lot. And I think this was this was something to issue a fine, and now I just don't want to set a precedence that, you know, the Lowell Conservation Commission issues a fine, but then it turns into a performance bond, and, you know, I don't want to weaken the effect of our fines.
And again, yeah, I agree. And again, this is, you know, it's a proposal. And, you know, it's not a guarantee that this will happen, but
I
it's a
understand.
proposal,
Right.
okay? You know, I think we're offering an olive branch, and I would suggest, you know, because, you know, we've got two members that aren't here, and one that we know doesn't particularly care for this, so, you know, I mean, you've got a situation where, you know, with a full commission, they could say, absolutely not, we want the
Right, it
fines.
could go either way.
Yeah.
I understand.
So, okay. So, any further discussion? All right, can we have a vote on that? Commissioner Barnum? Chair is yes. Commissioner Lynch? Commissioner Bedrin?
No.
Okay, so 3 yes, 1 no.
Quick question. Who seconded the motion?
Commissioner Lynch?
Okay, thank you.
All right, now, we got one more thing, and do we have a motion to continue the enforcement order for 6 weeks' time? Or do we want to just revisit this at the 2-week?
Let's not make that motion until the
All
2
right,
weeks.
so this will come back with the proposal, so it's just going to be continued for the 2 weeks on the
Okay.
proposal, okay?
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
That makes sense. Moving on, a request for determination of applicability, Transgas, Inc. Project location is 87 Industrial Avenue East. Proposed project to locate in LNG, which is a liquefied natural gas, is that correct? Okay. Fueling station near an existing diesel fueling station associated with Transgas operations and maintenance building at 87 Industrial Ave. And I assume you guys who are shaking your head yes are here on behalf of this, so if you could kindly, step up to the podium there and identify yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Dave Gendel. I live at 21 Ocean Street in Beverly, and I'm here tonight representing Transgas on their project, which we're quite excited about. I think at this point, what I'd like to do is just recognize our team that's over here to my left, to your right. We have Tim Meehan, who was president of Transgas. We have Ray Watkins, who was our director of special projects, and we have John Sirotto, who was fleet operations and just about everything else that goes on down there. So that's our group with us today. And, you know, again, we're excited about this. I think this is a great project for the city, and it's part of a larger global initiative to reduce carbon emissions and our dependency on foreign oil as a nation. So what we're doing is we're in the process of purchasing 10 vehicles. I think we've already done that. And these vehicles are fueled by LNG gas, and what we'd like to do is install a mobile unit, LNG refueling unit, at the facility that we have at 87 Industrial Avenue East. And at this particular point in the process, we have got approvals from the fire chief here in Lowell. We've also got approvals from the state fire marshal. We've been before the city council, I think it was in November, and got their blessing on moving forward with this project. And on Monday night, we met with the zoning board of appeals and was successful with that meeting. So we've come before you today to discuss our, I have to get the language down here, our request for determination of applicability and to answer any questions that the commission might have.
So Arthur, we didn't receive any engineered plans on this? Just the, just this City of Lowell aerials?
I had sent the application packet by post.
Yeah, I have the packet, but we didn't get a, all we have is the aerial? Okay.
Yes, yes.
What, excuse me, now you have an existing diesel fueling station there, is that underground tanks?
No, the existing one, let me bring up Ray here. Ray helps me with the more technical questions.
Good evening, Chairman. Ray Watkins, 141 John Street, apartment 424, Lowell, Mass. We do have underground diesel tanks over there, but just for the record, I know you asked a question if we don't have an engineering design. This is technically not a construction. This is actually a mobile trailer, is a tank sitting on wheels that have the ability to fuel the power units, the tractors itself. That's why you don't see an engineer. You do see an engineer design for the fire study that you know, was submitted to the fire department.
So this is just a tank, how 40,000 gallon, how big is this thing?
That's a good question. It's a tare weight. It's like an empty weight. It's about 35,000 gallons. It fits close to 4,500 gallons of liquefied natural gas. You know, we're talking 45,000 pounds. It sits literally on the middle of the yard. I have a picture over here. If I can approach.
Sure. So is this like we see driving down the highway, a tank that's on the back of a tractor trailer truck? And you're fueling alternative fuel vehicles with this? Oh, okay, all right, okay.
That is just a picture of the tank itself is pretty much like half of what you see going down the road, because you have a generator over there that actually runs on natural gas, you know, and then you have a pump behind the trailer. It's a self-contained unit, you know, that has all of the containment around it and meets evidently all of the NFPAs and ASME codes and everything else. Self-contained unit, containment around it, you know, and runs on natural gas.
And now, is it going to stay on wheels and a tractor will be able to back up into it and pull it away?
Yeah, we have, actually, we're going to put a containment around this area, you know, to avoid accidents or backing and things like that.
Describe that.
Jersey barriers around the trailer. You're going to
Okay.
have like a parking spot for that particular unit, but it's not going to be locked in, because one of the good things about this mobile unit is the ability for us to take this unit into the LNG loading facility, load the unit and bring it back.
And so it's going to be mobile then?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, this is just its parking spot?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, okay. I get
Hey,
it.
it's always good to, you know, to have the fire study, you know, discuss with the fire chief, you know, there's the Jersey barriers and all of the safety
All
precautions.
right, I get it now. Is there any questions from the commission? Well, actually, I just have one more. The generator that's on it, what fuels that thing?
It runs on natural gas.
It runs
It's a
on
self-contained unit.
So there's no gasoline, you're not?
Absolutely not.
How about, okay, all right, Commissioner Varnum?
Is this material something that could spill in the process of fueling?
That's a very good question. Interesting enough, the liquefied natural gas. So natural gas is 3 stages, and maybe I'm preaching to the choir over here, but the first stage is the natural gas that we see on a pipeline. You know, the second stage that you see could be a compressed natural gas. That's the one you compress to put on the, you know, the UPS trucks and the Honda Civics that run on natural gas. And then you got the liquefied natural gas. That's when you remove hydrocarbons and things like that. And the liquid itself is at minus 257 degrees. So what happens with the liquid is, when you see a spill, evaporates immediately, goes back to atmosphere. Sometimes doesn't even hit the ground.
Is it at that point explosive?
The liquefied natural gas is not a flammable. First of all, it's not explosive, but the liquid itself, on a liquid stage, natural gas is not flammable. So you can have an idea, the trucks that run on natural gas, they run 95% natural gas and 5% diesel. The truck needs a diesel tank just to create the first spark, and then you run on natural gas. It's very resistant to combustion, the liquid itself.
You have a stream of sorts running through your property. It's listed on all of the plans here, and there appears to be a 40-foot wide. Is this something that needs to have a curb or something to make sure that things don't encroach on that stream bed?
It technically doesn't even get close to the drainage ditch, really. You know, we're putting the unit on the middle of the yard because what you want to do is, from the trucking aspect, is you want to be able to come in with an 18-wheeler, fuel it, and still, you know, be able to turn around and go back. So you can't really hide this thing. And if you put too much to the corner, then you got to maneuver the 18-wheeler, go over there and fuel and come back. So we're not even getting close to that. There's no need for any construction of any type in the yard, or nothing is being changed.
So there is a chain link fence that's fencing off that particular stream, is there not? The
Yes,
ditch?
yes, Commissioner, yes.
I don't really see any problem with this.
Commissioner Lynch? Commissioner Biedron? All right. Is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns? Anyone here would like to offer their comments or concerns regarding 87 Industrial Avenue? Anyone here would like to offer their comments or concerns? All right. I think we could easily issue a -3. This is within the 100-foot buffer zone, so it's entirely within the buffer zone, but I mean, this is a mobile unit. It's kind of cool, actually. I mean, it's...
Stop by sometime to see, and I mean, just a reduction on the carbon footprint is close to, the greenhouse gas is close to 33% on the units.
Now, who will be your customers?
We are. We purchased 10 trucks that run on natural gas, and to make it viable economically, we need to fill them at the site. You know,
Okay, so you're filling up tankers or...
we fill in our own trucks. This is just like, as a motor fuel, it's just like filling as diesel. Our trucks run on the natural gas itself.
All right, so there's controls, you have controls in place on site that, you know, and I'm assuming since you've had fire department approval, you've had all those controls on site and safety precautions and...
Absolutely.
And whatnot, all right.
Absolutely. All, and I can go on and on all night about this.
That's okay. We wanna go home, too.
59As and, you know, and every safety precaution, fire study should be attached to that, you know, absolutely.
Okay.
It's not the first one in the state. Gulf Oil has one down in Chelsea. District Gas right outside Everett, the big LNG terminal over there, close to the water, has an LNG facility. I mean, we're hoping that we can, you know, continue to push forward the natural gas initiative.
Yeah, I guess what my comment was is you're not going to have, you know, XYZ company roll up and have the driver get out and stick a hose in his side of his vehicle
No.
and fuel. This is
That
something
doesn't
that
work
is
like
going to be
that.
done by trained and experienced
Absolutely.
staff. Okay, all right. All right, I think a -3.
I'll motion to issue a -3 determination on this RDA.
All right, do we have a motion by Commissioner Biedron?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Varnum. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Commissioner Varnum's aye, chair is yes. Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
Yeah. Commissioner Biedron?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Moving on, request for determination of applicability. Well, I butchered that. Request for determination of applicability. Mass DOT Highway Division. Project location is Princeton Boulevard and Blackbrook Culvert. Proposed work consisting of maintenance to clean existing head wall and install a new grate at the inlet of the culvert located on Blackbrook at Princeton Boulevard. And if you could kindly identify yourself for the record.
My name is Andrea Norton, and I represent Mass DOT over in Arlington. Mass DOT filed a request for determination. It is considered routine maintenance drainage work. A large boulder fell off the wing wall and fell into Black Brook, hitting the existing grading that is in front of the culvert opening. and we would like to go and remove that boulder, either by hand or by an excavator that will be sitting up on the roadway, and we'll reach down and pick it up. The maintenance crew would like to put the boulder back where it was before it fell out, and, which is on the wing wall. They would also like to remove the existing grate, because when the boulder fell out, it damaged the grate. The construction sequence would be such that they would put in the erosion and sedimentation control. I did get a review from Swathi, and she asked for wattles, straw wattles, and that would be fine, or erosion control log. It would be okay. The maintenance crew would call her, ask her to come out, and make sure that's where she would like it, adjust it if she wanted to. They would peel back the chain link fence so they could gain access to the site. They would then remove the boulder, put it back where it belonged. They would then slide up the grate, then move out the post that it slides into. They would then put in new posts, slide in a new grate, and then reattach the chain link fence. It should take only one day, provided the new grate is in-house. If for some reason the grate isn't in-house yet, then it would take 2 days. Right now, they want to get the boulder out of the way because it's impeding the flow going through the culvert. They do have a contractor on board, so once the permit comes in-house, then the maintenance operations would be scheduled.
All right, to me, this seems like a fairly quick job, and
Yeah.
as you outlined too. The boulder came off the head wall itself?
No, it's really quite a beautiful thing. It's a very old culvert opening, so it has the head wall here, but then it has boulders for wing walls on the
Right.
side, and it fell off the side.
Oh, it came off one of the wing walls?
Yeah,
Okay.
off the side.
What caused it to fall? Do we know?
I don't know.
I mean, things like that don't fall on their own. It's not super huge, but that's got to weigh 500-600 pounds, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know why it fell off. I'm sure the culvert's been there for ages, and just with time.
Do we know when it fell, approximately?
I got the request for the filing probably a month or so ago, 2 months ago. So,
So it was probably before ground freezing that
right.
it fell, so, and I'm trying to think if we had any high water events that would have caused that back then. I mean, is there some plan to, once it's put back, to anchor it somehow so it
No.
doesn't fall again? No?
No. Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Again, this is historic. It's been there forever. And with time, it just fell down.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Commissioner Varnum?
I was a little concerned about the fact that you said if the grate wasn't available the day that you did the work, then you would come back with it later. Is there any way you could leave the old grate on there until you
can
do get
ask-
the new grate?
I can ask maintenance to do
On-site.
that. Ideally, they would like it done in one day.
Well,
That's-
that would be ideal, but to
That's
leave
what
the
they're
grate
intending.
off,
But right now, they really want to remove the boulder. I can ask that they not remove the grate until that time. They don't want anything to get underneath the roadway. They're afraid that the culvert will get blocked with debris.
well,
And they're
that's
afraid a
my
beaver
concern,
might
not only
move in.
debris, but perhaps animals or small
Right.
children.
Right. I can ask. They don't want to take a chance with something like that. They know beavers are quite active, and they don't want anything like that. So I can ask that. I believe that they would comply with that.
Yeah. I think probably that stone, they probably will have somebody that understands drywall building to put that
Right.
stone back and perhaps
They
figure
will
out
make
which
sure that
was,
it's
which side
pushed
is
back.
down,
Yeah,
because it is a rather nice structure there,
it's really quite beautiful.
yeah. I don't see any real problems as long as, we have some erosion control and the grate is kept intact throughout the project.
You can put that as a condition on the permit, that you want the grate to remain in place until a new grate is in-house.
And it would seem to me that, I know you're using a grater, probably some sort of claw, but it would seem to me that they would strap that instead and attach the straps to the grater itself and use the straps to pick up
Right.
the stone, instead of a claw actually getting into the bed, to the bed of the brook.
I think that they might try to have the maintenance guys to go in and try to pick it up as a group effort,
Yeah,
but if they can't, then they will have to use something to pick it up.
right.
And hoist it over. I'm sure the grate, they'll like rope something around it and just slide it right up. The posts are like a channel, so the grate just slides into the channel of the post.
Yeah, it looks like that from the one that's damaged in. It looks like it's a
Right.
U-channel, yeah. Commissioner Lynch? No question. Commissioner Biedron?
Is it gonna be the same, like, is everything being replaced in kind? The same size grate?
Yeah,
Same thing. Is there any way to address Commissioner Varnum's concerns that everything just gets done once the grate's ordered?
well, right now, they really want to remove the
Get the boulder?
boulder
Okay.
because it's impeding flow, and they don't want to take a chance, with flooding or anything
Snow
like
melt,
that.
yep, okay.
But you can put it as a condition
Yeah,
that you
and-
don't want the existing grate and the existing channels to be removed until a new one is in-house. Ideally, they want everything done at once because of cost.
Yeah,
They don't have to pay for mobilization twice,
yeah.
All right. This is here in RDA, I believe. Yeah. Is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns? Anyone here would like to offer their comments or concerns on the Princeton Boulevard Black Brook culvert? Anyone here would like to offer their comments or concerns? All right. Do I have a motion? I think this could be -3 with a condition that the grate is to remain until such time that a new one is to be put in place. And it sounds to me like it's something that they have ready to go anyway, or at least they have.
They have a contractor on board.
Yeah.
It's a district-wide drainage maintenance contractor contract. So Newport is on board. So it's just a matter of getting the permit, scheduling it, and hopefully by then, the grate will be
Grate
in-house.
will be ready, okay. Yeah, I think we can put that as a condition.
I move to issue a -3 on this request, and with the condition that the grate shall remain in place until a new grate is ready to be installed in the same day. In addition, the straw wattles shall be used instead of hay bales in the erosion control.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Commissioner Biedron. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Commissioner Varnum? Chair is yes. Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
Commissioner Biedron?
Aye.
Okay. Right.
I've never been here before. This room is magnificent.
Yeah.
The woodwork, it really is.
It can be noisy when the fire engines go
I
by.
could actually give tours on something like this.
And it
You
has
don't
heat this week.
find architecture like this anymore.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Moving on, request for certificate of compliance. Megan, wow. I'm just not Irish tonight. Mari?
Yeah.
Marigi? Thank you. I don't know why I'm struggling with this name. And I shouldn't be, and I apologize. Concerning Mass DEP 2060411, project location is 48 and 50 Melrose Avenue.
Good evening. My name's Maureen Hanley with Norse Environmental Services, here on behalf of the client. This is an interesting situation. This is an existing duplex home. So we have number 48 and number 50. My client owns number 50. The bank had repossessed that side of the duplex, and what they're trying to do now is kind of clean up the paperwork. The Lowell Conservation Commission issued this order in 1995. It's within the 100-year floodplain, so it's built on piles and it's raised up a bit. Now, Swati had sent out a memo with a number of different concerns that she has due to this lot. One of them was the different contours that she noticed from the approved plan to the plan that we submitted. What that is it's just two different datums. The plan that was approved was on the Lowell datum, and the plan that we submitted is on the NVGD datum, but essentially all of the contours are the same. Another issue that was brought to our attention was, let's see, there's been a driveway expansion for both sides of the duplex. However, it does look like the driveways were put at grade, so that wouldn't affect any of the floodplain area. And that you can see in the photographs. There's also a patio at the backyard area. Again, that looks like it was put at grade, so I don't believe that would affect the floodplain either. Swati did note that the deck on the front of the dwelling is located within the 100-year floodplain, and she is correct, it's slightly within the 100-year floodplain. There was an addition of stairs on 48 side, but again, you know, it's within the 100-year floodplain, but this is just another form of egress from the building. And there is a shed located at the rear of the property on 48 side. But really, these are all minor adjustments that I believe. It is within the 100-year floodplain, but most of it looks like that it was put at grade. So I don't imagine that it would affect the floodplain significantly. In terms of the deck, it is within the 100-year floodplain, but it's not living space. So to compensate for 2x6s would be difficult because we just don't have the area on the lot to do that. And it's just slightly within the 100-year floodplain. The elevation of the floodplain is 101.5, and the deck is 101.12. So we're literally just slightly within it.
All right, I'm going to open this up for questions from the commission. I was not present at the site visit for this, so Commissioner Vernon?
I'm familiar with the area, but I didn't specifically see this before the blizzard came. This is a very old a very old case. In fact, I'm the only one on the commission that signed this particular document back in 1995.
Yeah, I was going to say, this one just predates my coming on, so.
At that time, we didn't have the concerns that we have today about this particular area of the world. That was before the
Right.
two flood events of the 2006 and all. I'm not sure I see any value in removing certain piece of pavement, because I remember this site before the house was there, and I believe there was a mobile home on this site, and the entire front yard was asphalt. So it's actually probably an improvement over that. The brick in the backyard, which I have not seen, but it's on the plan here, it does appear to be at grade. I don't find that a concern because of the openings in between, and once again, this goes back
Right.
a ways. I'm not sure it's fair. I don't know how many different owners we've gone through since this particular building was built. But I think it's a little unfair, something that may or may not have been discussed and approved back in 1995 to say that it's now in violation, since, especially since the whole neighborhood is full of little garden houses and
Right.
probably extra pavement here and there. I think our best concern is to, going forward, make sure that this neighborhood doesn't have any elements to the houses that are going to be a problem for neighbors that are already there, that already have problems. I can't see that removing one stairway off a deck is going to improve the situation of the flooding in this neighborhood. Whereas, once again, we have no idea when those elements that weren't on the original plan were added, whether it was last year or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I think the site is in general fairly neat. I think the backyard has been kept fairly, the contours have been kept fairly natural, and I'm leaning towards issuing a certificate on this with one change, and perhaps that would mean we can't issue the certificate tonight. There were two trees proposed in the front of the house, and I think that would probably be a good idea to put those trees back either in the front or in the backyard. I mean, I think the trees in themselves would be a help to the flooding issue in the neighborhood. They were proposed on the original plan. They are something that can easily be changed in order to comply with the original plan. And I would say 2 trees probably on that lot would be a benefit to the entire neighborhood as far as how much they could absorb water and that sort of thing.
Commissioner Lynch?
I don't have any questions. I agree with Commissioner Varnum in putting those trees back. The 2 large trees would be beneficial. I guess my only comment is that this came before the commission 18 years ago, and it seems like there are quite a bit of differences from the original plan to what's out there now. I don't know how this happened or if it was just an oversight, but we just don't want this going forward to happen again. So I get, I'm okay with issuing the COC, but I think just going forward, who knows when this happened, but 18 years seems like a very long time for this to go unnoticed. So luckily, these differences haven't made much of a difference, but what if it was something major that got overlooked? So That would be my only comment.
Well, if it eases your mind, one of the owners is here. Ms.
Okay.
Harvey's here. She owns the other side of the duplex. So she's listening.
It just seems like a long time.
Right.
I have no comments.
All right, help me here understand this. You're requesting a COC for the entire order for
We would
it
like it-
affecting your client? What are you asking for?
We would like a full certificate of compliance for 48 and 50, if possible. Just because of the situation that it is a duplex, and the duplex is the entire structure. So in terms of cleaning up the paperwork, I think it would be most efficient to do it that way rather than asking for a partial. My client owns number 50. And
Which is the one on the right or the left?
the right-hand side. Right,
And that's the one with the smaller driveway.
correct.
And then the other, now, and the other one is 48, that's on the left? right?
Correct.
Okay. And I know you said that this was prompted by a refinance request. What's prompting this?
It's my understanding that there's a foreclosure in place, and the bank's taking over number 50. So that's what had prompted this, because now most attorneys look for outstanding orders on any type of deeds, and this is how it came about. So the bank's taking it over.
So your client is Megan? And
Correct.
who is she? Is she one of the owners?
No, she's a RE/MAX representative for the bank, is my understanding.
I'd like to see the trees put in.
We can put 2 trees in, you know, if they can be a little bit smaller in size, I'm sure my client would appreciate that. But I don't think putting in 2 trees is a big deal. So I don't think that's a problem.
What kind of trees?
Deciduous trees.
Yeah, I think with the existing differences, and that, the time lapse, and, I don't want people to get the impression that, we'll build a project however we want to build it, and then we'll come back in 20 years and ask for a COC, and, hey, there's some differences, but you know what the heck? Let's get the trees in.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if we want to table this until we get the trees in the spring, or what. I mean, if we issue the COC, then it's kind of the end of it. You put the trees in, you don't put the trees in, there's not much we can do about it at that point in time.
I mean, but are they trying to sell the house, though?
Correct.
Yeah, so the banks probably want to try to sell this, so if we,
They'll put the trees in.
That's why I asked that question, and I don't want to say why. I mean, if this was a refinance type situation, I'd say fine, but I'm not terribly sympathetic to a foreclosing bank with an outstanding order of conditions. They should have thought about that before they gave the mortgage, because that's something that's easily disclosed when they gave the purchase money mortgage to begin with. So, they take it with what exists on the title. I don't really care.
Perhaps we could consider a bond for this project as well.
I mean, that's another way to deal with it.
I know they're interested in getting the certificate, so if a bond is necessary, I think they would put up a bond for the cost of the 2 trees or whatever it is the commission decides. But it's definitely in their benefit to get this certificate to plant the trees. It'll enhance the property even further to be sold in the future.
All right, is it under agreement now?
No, I don't believe so.
Let's, it's a couple of $1,000s to put in a couple of, trees isn't unreasonable. Let's see you back in 2 weeks with a proposal on that, and
Well, how about we put in 2 red maple trees, or a red maple and a green ash, or?
Yeah, sure,
I
that's-
mean, honestly, if I could maybe get the commission's approval tonight, I would appreciate that, rather than coming back to you with 2 tree species. I'm sure that the bank's not going to be too picky on terms of which trees to plant. I don't know if that's a possibility. I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
I know you're well-meaning, but getting the banks to do anything these days, and that's my business, is darn near impossible. They only do stuff when they've been forced to do it, and I think, you know, we've got the upper hand here, and I'd rather see the trees.
Why don't we ask the one person who's going to be staying there, maybe what kind of trees she'd like,
Yeah,
deciduously speaking?
Thank you, Commissioner Burnham. I'm Linda Harvey. I live at 48 Melrose Avenue. I bought my condo it's a condex, actually, in 2005. Sorry if this is too loud. I did not have a mortgage, so I only had a home inspection. I was not aware that there were any violations. As far as I knew, the shed, the patio, the driveway were all accepted. I was not aware of any requirements of trees on the property. I would more than welcome a tree be planted, but I would like to have some say in where it's planted and what type of variety it is. If you have any, and I'm paying taxes on the shed, so as far as I know, I'm legal, but if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
I don't have any questions other than, you know, I'd like to see some trees.
Sure.
You know, it's part of the order. The bank wants something, and, you know, they're asking for a COC.
And this property, 48 and 50 Melrose, abuts 51 Shirley, where they just took out all the ash trees. So I'd be more than willing to have some trees planted. Because,
Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be, you know, and, you know, where you want them. You know, the trees are amazing instruments of absorbing groundwater, so, as you know.
I
You know, I mean, you've been
absolutely-
here enough times to have heard all of that.
yes, I'm sure you're getting
Goings on,
tired of seeing me.
No, not at all. We love it when you come in, so.
The water from 51 Shirley backs up into 50 Melrose because those trees are no longer there
Right.
to take up the water. So I'm all for trees.
I mean, that's my position, but I'm not gonna be the one making a motion tonight, so.
I move that the applicant come back in 2 weeks with a suggestion of what trees would be appropriate, in consultation perhaps with Ms. Harvey. And I'd also like to see a proposal, your life is full of proposals, a proposal about what amount of a bond would be appropriate for the covering of the planting and purchasing and caring for until they're established, those 2 trees. And I'm also would reiterate that I don't think the trees need to be on the street. I think they could be anywhere on the lot as far as the function that they provide. So perhaps you could decide where the best spot for those would be. I know I've had a mad plowman on my street recently plowing the snow and pushing it up against trees, so a small tree right on the street side there
Yeah.
perhaps wouldn't have a long life. The motion somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
what was the motion again?
The motion to choose the kind of trees, come back with a proposal for the amount of a bond that would be necessary for the purchasing and planting and caring for those trees.
Yeah, and I think, either we get the trees in or we get a reasonable bond and we issue a COC. Okay, I'm not hearing any pushback. Do I have a second on that motion, by the way?
Second.
By Commissioner Lynch. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying yea or nay. Commissioner Varnum? Chair is yes. Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
Commissioner Bedrin?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You just won the lottery with us tonight, I think,
Yeah.
so.
You're more pleasant than Mr. Erickson. Keep coming.
Steve's too intense sometimes. All right. Moving on to other business, I'd like to do the minutes first. Do I have a motion regarding the May 9th, 2012 and the December 12th, 2012 minutes?
I just have one question about the May 9th minutes. It said that I called the meeting to order. I don't know, were you late that night, Mr. Zacher?
May 9th? Wow.
Because Mr. Zacher was present, so I'm not sure why I would have called the meeting.
This is before I started with the city, but I can check the recordings, and if it is,
Yeah, if I was here, I called the meeting to
okay,
order.
I
I'm
will make the edit
reasonably
accordingly.
certain of that,
Okay,
so.
definitely, I will make that edit.
Yeah, I found no other errors in the minutes. So I would move to accept the minutes of May 9th, 2012, and December 12th, 2012.
Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Lynch. Any discussion? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, moving on to other business now. Discussion on revising the rules and regulations of the commission relating to the existing special condition mandating that the order of conditions be recorded within 28 days upon issuance by the Lowell Conservation Commission at Middlesex North Registry of Deeds. Was continued from the prior hearing. As you may have discussed, I had requested of Swathi and of our, from the Planning and Development to draft up some regulations to correct our special condition number 2. Well, not to replace it, we still will maintain the 28-day, window to record, but there has to be, I think it's such a draconian, to be null and void. We've got to put something in place to cure, the innocent forgetting to record, no work is done, and 6 months later, they're gonna start and, oops, we forgot to record the order, or even, 2 months later, or a month and a half later, and, they missed it by, a week or something like that. I mean, life happens in between the Conservation Commission and getting to the registry sometimes, so. I think the regulations that we got back from Swathi were pretty good. I like them. It addressed 3 specific areas where there were, where there was a failure to record and also a failure to notify, and work was started, and then it broke it down from there. I would just like to add one thing that I think, okay, you made those changes? Yeah, okay. All right.
It's on the set I provided just before the meeting.
Where are we?
Do you want a copy? Yes.
Right here. Thank you. Do I have to read this into the record?
Yes.
I do. All right, and bear with me here. These would be the proposed changes. Section 4.8, enforcement. The commission, its agents, officers, and employees shall have the authority to enter upon privately owned land for the purposes of performing their duties under the Lowell Wetlands Ordinance, and may cause to be made such examinations, surveys, or sampling as the commission deems necessary. The commission shall have the authority to enforce the Lowell Wetlands Ordinance in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and 310 Code of Massachusetts Regulations, Section 10.00, all as amended regulations and permits issued thereunder by violation notices, administrative orders, and civil and criminal court actions. Upon request of the the commission, the city solicitor shall take legal action for enforcement under civil law. Upon request of the commission, the chief of police shall take legal action for enforcement under criminal law. In the alternative to criminal prosecution, the commission may elect to utilize the non-criminal disposition procedure set forth in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 21D. City boards and officers, including any city police officer or other officer having police powers, shall have the authority to assist the commission in enforcement. Any person who violates any provision of this ordinance, regulations thereunder, or permits issued thereunder shall be punished by a fine of not more than $300 each calendar day, or a portion thereof during which violation continues shall constitute a separate offense, and each provision of the ordinance, regulations, or permits violated shall constitute a separate offense. No work shall commence until the order of conditions issued by the commission has been recorded at the Registry of Deeds, Middlesex North, within 28 days from the date of issuance, and documentation certifying as such has been submitted to the Lowell Conservation Commission office. The Lowell Conservation Commission office must be notified 48 hours prior to start of work. Failure to meet these conditions will result in one of the following actions. 1, if the applicant fails to record the order within 28 days of its issuance and has not started the work, the applicant is required to immediately notify the Conservation Commission or agents designated by the Commission to act on their behalf and request a formal extension of the requirement to record the order of conditions. Staff may approve the request administratively if it is determined that no work has occurred at the subject property in violation of the order, the Wetlands Protection Act, or Wetlands Ordinance. In the case an extension has been granted, the project proponent shall record the order at the Registry of Deeds, Middlesex North, within 14 days from the date of approval. A copy of the recorded order shall be submitted to the Lowell Conservation Commission office. Failure to record the order of conditions within the extension period is a violation of the regulations and may result in the issuance of an enforcement order with a fine of not more than $300 for each calendar day or portion thereof during which the violation continues. 2, if the applicant fails to record the order within 28 days of its issuance and starts the work without notifying the Conservation Commission office, it is a violation of the order of conditions and may result in the issuance of an enforcement order with a fine of not more than $300 for each calendar day or portion thereof during which the violation continues. The applicant will be required to stop work immediately and submit a restoration plan for approval from the commission within 14 days from the date of issuance of the enforcement order. 3, if the applicant fails to record the order prior to transfer of ownership of the property, it will result in the order becoming null and void. 4, if the applicant records the order within 28 days of its issuance, but starts work without notifying the Conservation Commission office, it is a violation of the regulations and may result in the issuance of an enforcement order with a fine of not more than $300 for each calendar day or portion thereof during which the violation continues. The applicant will be required to stop work immediately and seek approval from the Conservation Commission to continue the work. This will result, and we're requesting that a change of our special condition will be made on the order, and it will be changed to read this. 1, orders of condition must be recorded with the Middlesex North Registry of Deeds. Proof of recording must be returned to our office before work can begin on the site. Failure to record this order within 28 days from the date of issuance may result in the order becoming null and void, subject to enforcement as identified in the rules and regulations of the Lowell Conservation Commission. And that's a notice that will be sent to the applicant. And lastly, the special condition that actually appears on the order of condition will be changed to special condition number 3, and the language will be changed. Failure to record this order of conditions within 28 days from the date of issuance may result in the order becoming null and void, subject to enforcement as identified in the rules and regulations of the Lowell Conservation Commission. And that was changed from just it becoming null and void. And those are the proposed changes. So we'll open it up for discussion. Has this been reviewed by the law department?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have Eric Slagle, who used to be the assistant solicitor, who is our director right now.
So it was drafted in consultation
Yes,
with
yes.
with Eric? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any comments from the commission? Commissioner Barnum, Lynch, Biedron? Okay, I don't have any. Likewise, I'm glad we're making changes. I mean, these can be tweaked. These are our rules and regulations, so we can tweak these. This does not require, if we approve this, this does not require city council approval. This
doesn't.
becomes our rules and
Yes,
regulations.
this is
right?
totally within the conservation commits,
Right.
extent.
Do I have if there's no changes, do I have a motion regarding either accepting or not accepting these changes?
I'll motion to accept these changes within our ordinance.
Okay. Do I have in the rules and regulations, do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Lynch, a motion by Commissioner Biedron. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor signify by saying yea or nay. Commissioner Barnum? Chair is yes. Commissioner Lynch?
Aye.
Commissioner Biedron?
Aye.
Okay, they carry. Thank you for putting that together. And is there any other business?
No.
All right.
I will have the packets for the next meeting sent out either end of this week or early next week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And that's it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
By Commissioner Lynch, seconded by Commissioner Biedron. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. And good night.